Hungary is a small country in Central Europe, lying far from any ocean or sea. In the north and west are hills, but most of Hungary is a broad plain. Its two main rivers are the Danube and the Tisza. The capital is Budapest, by far the largest Hungarian city. About 80% of the land in Hungary is good for farming. On the slopes of the hills are many vineyards and different kinds of fruit trees. But most of the land is flat. Its soil is excellent for raising wheat and corn. The flat land in the east is called the Great Hungarian Plain, or Puszta, the breadbasket of Hungary. Numerous rivers provide water for irrigation. The Danube and the Tisza are entirely navigable and are the nation's chief trade routes, linking her with her neighbors. Today, Hungary has a communist government. The state owns most of the national wealth and controls most activities. Many farmers no longer work as individuals, but as part of a team on large state farms. Groups of farmers own and operate mechanical equipment on large land areas and produce more than the same number of individuals could by working separately on small farms. Some farmers, however, prefer to work for themselves. The government discourages this by limiting the amount of land they can own and by making it difficult for them to market their produce. Like most countries of Central Europe, Hungary is changing from an agricultural to an industrial nation. Her industry is growing rapidly. Hungary is one of the world's leading producers of bauxite, the raw material for aluminum. All natural resources, the ores and minerals, are state-owned, as are the factories that do the processing. This means that the government has to plan how much ore shall be used, how many plants shall process it, and how it shall be moved from place to place. By rail, by river barge, or by truck. During World War II, Hungary lost many of her buildings. Today she is rebuilding as fast as she can produce the necessary materials. These she must make in her own factories because she cannot afford to import many needed goods. Top-level plans for national development are drawn up in Budapest in the old Parliament building. When to spend, how much to spend, and on what. How much shall bread cost? What wages shall people earn? What rents shall they pay? All this the government decides in the name of the people. What effect does this have on the people? Like men and women in any major city, they get up in the morning, catch a bus or trolley, and go off to work. The state may own their apartments, or their means of transportation, or the office buildings where they work, or the stores where they shop, or the restaurants where they eat. But what seems more important is whether there is a place on the trolley, how expensive are the goods in the stores, and can they buy a good meal without waiting hours to be served. Among the many citizens of Budapest is Susan Farkas. Susan is an artist. She weaves tapestries. Her sketches are worked into huge designs. She chooses big subjects, like Budapest, a city she loves. She's especially fond of Buda, the older part around the royal castle. The castle and many other beautiful old buildings were destroyed during World War II. Susan is glad that they are now being rebuilt in their original form. A nation's past is important and should not be forgotten. Susan can spend her time as she likes and work in her own style, but she wishes she could meet more artists and read more papers and magazines from the West. Most of all, she would like to travel, but the government makes this difficult. However, life is not completely government planned or dominated. A ticket in the lottery holds out hope for a pleasant surprise, and a small city market provides a chance for some private trading. Travel within the country is no longer restricted, and in a few days, Susan plans to visit her family in southern Hungary. She would like to take some small presents. Her mother likes lace, but Susan doesn't like modern folk art. It is mostly made by machine now, and the spirit has gone out of it. Perhaps she will find something satisfying before she leaves. Susan must let her family know she is coming. She uses a public telephone because she is still on the waiting list for a private one. In Hungary, people have to do a lot of waiting, whether for a telephone, a car, or an apartment. When Susan moved to Budapest, she had to wait several years for a place of her own. She is lucky to have one now and pays very little rent. She must share her apartment, however, since there are 2 bedrooms. So Susan lives and works in one not very large room. In Hungary, art school is free, but there are other problems, especially for a weaver of tapestries. Between sketch and finished design are many months of labor, sometimes made longer by a shortage of materials. And when the work is finished, who will buy it? There are few people in Hungary who can afford to buy works of art. So Susan must work for official organizations which can spend money on public decoration.
Találok magamnak mind szebbet, mind jobbat, elmehetsz már, csalfa madár. Találok én, noha szegény, mind szebbet, mind jobbat, nálad igazabbat. Találok én, noha szegény.
Susan is pleased that her tapestry has been accepted by a fishing council. Boats and nets and underwater life are a favorite subject because she grew up in a fishing village, Baja, and she comes from a fisherman's family. This is the village of Baja on the Danube. At daybreak, the fishermen prepare their nets. Susan's father, Joseph, assures himself that all is in order. Joseph has fished the local waters for many years and has a leading position in the fishermen's cooperative. Cooperatives of different kinds have been formed all over the country. By voluntary agreement, the fishermen own their boats, their nets, and their fishing gear as a group and share in the results of their common labor. The Baja fishermen still fish as their forefathers did, with fish pot and net. They row downstream to one of the spots where they know the fish are likely to be found. They catch mainly carp and catfish. Today they are in luck. They pull in a 40-pound catfish. Meanwhile, activity is starting in the village. At Joseph's house, which he owns and can deed to his family, his children and their friends are having a last game before the school bell. Susan's younger brother Janos does his final chore, bringing water from the village pump. Susan's mother chops wood for the kitchen stove. This is usually Janos's job, but he overslept this morning. The villagers are not rich, but nobody lives in poverty. The children are well-dressed and cared for. Many of the parents cannot read or write. They are particularly happy that free education is now available for all the children. This prepares them for better jobs and affords greater opportunities for a better life. Since there is no running water in the houses, everyone must use the village pumps. These are scenes of meeting, gossip, and domestic activity. Automobiles are scarce. Cows, oxen, and horses are widely used. Susan goes to the market. From their personally owned small land holdings, the villagers often produce more than they need for their own families. This they can sell locally without government control. At the dock, Joseph sells fish, not as an individual, but as a member of the cooperative. The co-op uses the money to pay wages to the fishermen and to invest in enterprises such as this button factory. Here, the mussel shells from the river, which would otherwise be wasted, are turned into buttons. These are sold not only in Hungary, but also to many other countries, including England. The Fishermen's Cooperative is changing the economic life of Baja. Hungarian children may learn English in the upper grades. They must learn Russian. But naturally they prefer Magyar, their own language, unrelated to any other in Europe except Finnish. For dinner, the family usually has fish or a goulash well seasoned with paprika. Today it is goulash. Hungarian wine is part of the national diet and is drunk moderately by all at any hour of the day. His day's work for the cooperative completed, Joseph is now free to tend to his own affairs. He grows his own grapes and makes wine from them. Everyone eats a lot of bread made from the wheat grown on the Hungarian plain. Today, bread is generally bought at the bakery rather than made at home. With evening comes relaxation. In this, most of the world's people are alike. country and town, life in Hungary is changing rapidly. A strong national past suggests a strong national future.